So hey everyone, welcome to today's class. We are going to study about AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So this is an orchestration service. So it is one of the services that I first got started with when I started learning about AWS. So it was a really nice service to work with, and it does a lot of things in the background. And I hope by the end of this lecture you get a really good idea as to how Elastic Beanstalk is useful. And it was actually, one person when I was discussing about Elastic Beanstalk told me that any person can get started with Elastic Beanstalk without even knowing what it does in the background. It's that easy to get started with it. And I really think that the more I worked with Elastic Beanstalk, that there are a lot of advanced configurations also. But then I just hope that from my experience, I'll be able to, tell you about all of the things that I learned about Elastic Beanstalk so that you also get that knowledge. Right, so let's get started. So AWS Elastic Beanstalk is an easy to use service for deploying, scaling web applications and services developed with any one of these programming languages. So it can be Java, it can be .NET, it can be PHP, Node.js, Python, Ruby, Go, and Docker. And also on certain familiar servers like web servers that we have worked with before. So like Apache Tomcat or Nginx Web Server, or it could be Passenger and IIS for .NET, right? So you can simply upload your code. So that's the maximum that you have to do because this is a PaaS offering, which is a platform as a service offering. So all you need to do is just simply upload your code, and then Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the deployment. So it takes care of the capacity provisioning, the load balancing, the auto scaling, and also the application's health monitoring. So it's like Elastic Beanstalk has all of the configurations in one single place, that you don't have to go outside of Elastic Beanstalk to even look at most of those configurations, right? So it's just one tab on Google Chrome that you're sitting in, and you're able to see everything regarding where your deployment is running, how is it running, what is the endpoint to access your application, some of the metrics from CloudWatch, and including the metrics from your load balancer, and what are the events that has happened. So literally everything can be looked at from a single place, and even your database server can be spawned from Elastic Beanstalk itself, because Elastic Beanstalk also supports RDS service. So at the same time, you retain full control over the underlying infrastructure, right? That is being provisioned. So if suppose you're going ahead and choosing to spawn up a Java server, Java application that you're deploying on an EC2 instance, Elastic Beanstalk in turn manages the EC2 instance for you. It goes ahead and creates the EC2 instance for you and all that. But then you still do have access to that EC2 instance if you choose to, right? So that's mentioned in the third point. So other than all of the resources that it spawns in the background, you still have full control over those resources. And again, there is no additional charge for using Elastic Beanstalk, like how we saw regarding CloudFormation, right? That CloudFormation also does not have any extra charge that you pay separately for CloudFormation, but obviously for the resources that it runs, that you provision in the infrastructure, you need to pay for those resources, right? So the catch to this is Elastic Beanstalk itself uses CloudFormation in the background to go ahead and spawn up all of your resources in your AWS ecosystem, right? So that's beautiful. So since we have already learned about CloudFormation, when I show you the provisioning process, I'll show you that when you create an application through Elastic Beanstalk, it uses a CloudFormation template in the background to provision all of your resources. So some of the features are that it supports web applications written in any popular language or framework. Again, it requires no or minimal code changes to go from development to the cloud. You can choose between any one of these different programming languages that are mentioned. And Elastic Beanstalk allows you to deploy your code, which is beautiful, through the management console, which we are going to see today. But you could also use something called as the EB CLI or the Elastic Beanstalk CLI, which is its own command line interface through which you can go ahead and create your application, create an environment, and so on. And you can also use the Visual Studio and the Eclipse plugins that they support, and you can choose from multiple deployment policies. So we'll be going into depth with some of these deployment policies. So you have the all at once deployment policy, you have the rolling deployment policy, you have the rolling with additional batch, you have the immutable, and finally the blue green deployment policy. So wherein with all at once deployment policy, you get downtime for your application, but with any other deployment policy other than the all at once, you get very minimal downtime or zero downtime, right? So that's the kind of deployment policy that you need to choose for your customer's environment, wherein you need to have a zero downtime, right? So let's go and look at all of these deployment policies in the subsequent slides. But before that, some of the other features that it brings us is also that it collects 40 plus key metrics regarding EC2, RDS, Elastic load balancing, and so on. and it presents you all of this in a single dashboard in Elastic Beanstalk called as the health dashboard. And it allows you to visualize your overall application's health and also customize some of your application's health regarding CloudWatch alarms and so on. So everything is there in a single dashboard. And it also integrates with CloudWatch and X-Ray. So one good thing to note regarding AWS X-Ray over here is that it is a service that is used to trace your requests. So you can find out what is your, the request latency, the response latency, including how much time it took for you to respond to a particular user request, and then what is the HTTP status code and so on. And you can also view this as a service map. So you can get to know all the details regarding tracing with X-Ray, right? And with Amazon CloudWatch, which we have studied before, you know all of the metrics are being supported by CloudWatch, and you also know that you can create alarms and you can create dashboards and visualizations, right? So you can leverage the monitoring dashboard to view some key performance metrics of your application, such as the latency, the CPU utilization of your underlying server, and some of the response codes using AWS X-Ray and so on. So you can also set up CloudWatch alarms to get notified whenever your metrics exceed a certain threshold. So if your CPU utilization goes greater than 70%, go ahead and inform your infrastructure team that your alarm has been transitioned to the OK status. To the alarm status from the OK status, right? Okay, so other features are that it leverages elastic load balancing and auto scaling also. So it does this on your behalf in the background. Since we already studied about auto scaling and load balancing, you can go ahead and learn about auto scaling and load balancing that are supported through Elastic Beanstalk, which is again like an orchestration service that manages these configurations for you. And it comes out of the box. It's a capability that comes out of the box. And in addition, multiple availability zones also gives you the option to improve the application's reliability and availability by running it in more than one zone. Again, over here, one thing that I would like to mention is that the load balancer, including the EC2 instances, everything is being monitored and managed by Elastic Beanstalk itself. So there may not be a use case wherein you would like to go into the EC2 instance, like SSH into the EC2 instance, but then you can also present your own key pair. So therefore, you can go ahead and SSH into your EC2 instance if at all you need to do some kind of troubleshooting and so on. And again, you have the freedom to select the AWS resources such as the EC2 instance type and so on. It lets you open the hood, which means you get full control over all of the AWS resources that are powering your application. And even if you decide to take over some of the elements of your infrastructure, you can do so seamlessly using its management capabilities. So you can go ahead and restart some of your EC2 instances from the Elastic Beanstalk dashboard itself. You can go ahead and stop your EC2 instance from the dashboard itself. So you don't need to actually go to EC2 in order to do those things. Right? So these are the different application environments. So you can see we have programming language respective environments like Python, Ruby, PHP, Node.js, Java, and .NET. And similarly, we have Docker support over here also. So we have a single Docker container and multi-Docker container. So multi-Docker container goes ahead and uses a Docker Compose kind of environment, and a single Docker container and multi-Docker container. Both of them, I believe, uses Amazon Elastic Container Service, which you have studied before. And you can read more about that in your documentation. But then today what we'll be seeing is we'll be just launching a simple Java application. And one more thing to notice when you're going with Java and Tomcat type of environment, you can also upload your WAR file or your jar file. But there is one small tweaking that you have to do when you upload your jar file, which I'm sure you can find out in the docs. But you can do your WAR file deployment using Java application to your Elastic Beanstalk environment. And similarly, you can find out the deployable artifact that you can have for your other programming languages, right? So again, regarding the deployment policies that it supports, so you have all at once deployment, wherein the newer version of your application will automatically be deployed to all of the servers at once within your Elastic Beanstalk environment, right? So if you have 4 EC2 instances that are running in front of a load balancer, when you choose the all at once deployment, you will have the second version of your application being deployed to all of your servers. So therefore, you will not get zero downtime over here. You will surely have some downtime. And when it comes to rolling, what happens is this deployment happens in batches, which means if you have 4 EC2 instances that are serving your application in Elastic Beanstalk, and you go with the rolling deployment strategy, it will automatically roll out your new version of your application one server at a time or 2 servers at a time, depending on the batch size that you specify, right? And this rolling with additional batches, it actually goes ahead and launches a new batch of instances in order to support the full capacity during the additional deployment of during the deployment process. But then it deploys the new version in batches again. So with both rolling and rolling with additional batch, it does the deployment in batches like 2 instances at a time or 1 instance at a time. But then with rolling with additional batch, you also get a new batch of instances, new set of instances, to always ensure that you have full capacity for your end users, right? And then you have the immutable deployment, wherein if suppose you have one environment set up, right? What Elastic Beanstalk does is when you go with the immutable deployment, it takes a copy of your existing environment and it creates a brand new environment onto which the second version of your application is being deployed. And then you can go ahead and choose to whether you want to terminate your old environment and so on. So it actually deploys your new version to a fresh group of instances by performing an immutable update. So it doesn't even touch your existing infra. It creates a copy of your infra or launches new EC2 instances, the same configuration that you had with your first infrastructure, and then deploys a new version over there, right? And again, the batch size is the size of set of instances to deploy in each batch. So with rolling and rolling with additional batch, you have to specify the batch size. So you can go with 2 EC2 instances at any point of time, or do a rolling deployment of 3 EC2 instances at a time, and so on, right? So that you at least maintain your capacity, and both your deployment process is happening, and at the same time you're also serving your end users with a minimal number of instances, right? And there is also one more deployment policy called as blue-green deployment policy, which I'll show you in a second when we do the lab. So wherein you have one environment that is serving your production end users, which is called as a green environment. And then you have your blue environment, wherein you go ahead and update version 2 of your application, right? And then what you do is you use a weighted routing policy in order to specify the weights and do a distribution of traffic between both the environments. And then let's say you're sending 20% of traffic to your blue environment, which has version 2, and you are sending 80% of traffic to the version 1, which is the green environment. What you can do at a later point of time is, if you're happy with how things are working with the version 2 of your application, you can send 100% of traffic to version 2, and then you can send out 0% of traffic to version 1. So your existing green environment becomes the blue, and your existing blue becomes the green, right? So that's the kind of strategy that Elastic Beanstalk also supports. So this gives you zero downtime. So it's a simple swap URL feature on the console. So I'll just show you as to how that works when we do the practical lab, right? So now when we talk about the Elastic Beanstalk CLI, so EBCLI is a command line interface for Elastic Beanstalk that provides you with interactive commands for going ahead and creating, updating, and monitoring your environments from a local repository. So you can use the EBCLI as part of your everyday deployment process. So when you're developing an application straight from your laptop, from your CLI, without even logging to the console, you can go ahead and create your environment using the EB create. And then there are a lot of commands, and I'm guessing that you can take a look at the documentation for this. But just remember that when you interact with Elastic Beanstalk, you can do it via the management console, and you can do it via the EBCLI. And you also have one more advanced configuration called as EB extensions, which we will not be covering as part of the associate level. But then just know that that also exists, that you can do some advanced configurations using YAML files, using EB extensions for bootstrapping your environment in Elastic Beanstalk, right? And okay, so instead of looking at this diagram, let's just go ahead and dive deep into the console, and let's look at Elastic Beanstalk and how do you provision an environment. So Elastic Beanstalk is on the compute related service over here. So this was one of the first services that I used when I started working with AWS. So it was pretty easy to get started. So you can see over here, it's asking us to create an application. So let's go ahead and create an application. So let's give the application a name. So I'm calling it as sample Java EB. And then you all know what tags are, but right now I'm not going to associate any tags. Again, it's very important for cost related purposes, right? And the platform that we are going to choose is, we are going to go with Java, right? And you can see the platform branch over here is, you can go ahead and choose Java 8 running on 64-bit Amazon Linux, or you can go with Java 7 or the new Corretto platform that is running on Amazon Linux 2 and so on. We will go with Java 8 running on 64-bit Amazon Linux, and the platform version that is recommended is this. And we are going to go with sample application instead of uploading our own code, or you can also choose to go ahead and copy one of your code from Amazon S3, right? So let's go with sample application for right now, and let's go ahead and create the application. So this will take a little bit of time. It's creating a new environment. So let's try to see if we are able to go to CloudFormation and see this. So we are in the same region. Again, Elastic Beanstalk is a regional service. So we are in the Northern Virginia region. Let's also look at CloudFormation stack. So you can see over here, it has created a CloudFormation stack for us. and you can see the resources that it's creating. So it's creating an elastic IP, and it's going ahead and creating a security group, which it has finished. And there is a wait condition handle. Let's just refresh this. So now it's going ahead and creating a launch configuration. So let's wait for this entire stack to complete, right? So it has finished creating the launch configuration. So it has finished creating this also. So let's see if some other resources are pending. Okay, so right now it's creating the auto scaling group. You can see all of the output over here also. You can see over here it has created a new elastic IP. So that's the reason why when you work with Elastic Beanstalk, you don't need to go ahead and look at the other the other services that it supports under the hood, right? And your application code is going to come from S3, and you can also store all of your application code in an S3 bucket, right? So you can see over here, it is using this particular bucket, which you can see in S3 as the storage bucket for the environment data, right? Let's go ahead and see if the stack is completed. So it's still creating the auto scaling group, I believe. Yeah. So it's still creating the auto scaling group. And at the same time, you can also go ahead and look at the EC2 dashboard to just see if there are any EC2 instances that have been created for the sample application. So let's just look at EC2 too. So you can see there are 5 running. Let's see if we got one. Okay, there is one that is initializing, which is the T2 micro instance, sample Java EB environment, right? So this is pretty cool. So you can see that even this EC2 instance right now, it doesn't have a key pair, but then I'll show you the other way of deploying with Elastic Beanstalk, wherein you get access to all of the configurations when you do everything by yourself. So this is just to get started. I've just shown you this. So let's go ahead and see if the stack creation is complete. Cool. Stack creation is complete. Let's go ahead and refresh this guy. Okay, so create environment is starting. So let's just wait for a little bit of time. Okay, cool. So we got an environment over here that is in the pending status right now, but you can see it's Java 8 running on Amazon Linux, right? Okay, let's wait for a little bit of time. I'm sure it'll come up. Okay, let's see even if our instance has come up. Okay, it's still in the initializing status. Okay, so the health has transitioned to okay right now. So let's go ahead and click on this and see what are the actions that it allows us. So you can see we can load a configuration, we can save whatever configuration is there over here to an S3 bucket, and we can swap the environment URL. I'm just going to do this in a second and show you as to what that does. In fact, you can also restart your app service. You can rebuild your environment and also terminate your environment. You can also clone your environment. So it just creates a copy when you do a clone, right? And you can see the URL that is listed over here. So this is a URL that Elastic Beanstalk automatically gives you when you provision an application. So let's click on this URL and look at it on the browser. So you can see over here, we have the sample Elastic Beanstalk application deployed. And this is a URL that you can also, register it with Route 53 to translate it to your own customized domain name, right? Which is user friendly and remember. Yeah. So when I click on this environment, you can see all of the other properties, right? So you can see over here, the health status is okay right now. And we have already deployed a sample application, but you can go ahead and upload and deploy any application that you would like. And we are using the Java 8 platform. And you can see the environment actions over here that we saw were at the start when we saw it with the actions, right? Again, over here, when you see the configuration, so it's loading all of the configurations. So you can see over here, the software related configuration is where we can enable the X-ray daemon or rotate the logs or look at our Java and Maven home properties and so on. And if we want to modify that also, we can. And you can see over here the instances that it's using. Let me just edit this and show you. So you can see over here the monitoring interval for CloudWatch is 5 minutes. The root volume is container type of volume. And you can see over here container type of volume, wherein we haven't chosen whether it's general purpose SSD or provision, but these are also possible for our boot volume. And you can see the security group also that it has chosen for this. It has created a new one, right? Cool. So let's click on cancel. So these are all the things that it does in the background. Let's also look at capacity over here. What are the properties that we can change? You can see over here, it's a single instance environment, but we can obviously go with a load balanced environment, wherein we will get a load balancer, including an auto scaling group. And we can also provision our load balancer from the Elastic Beanstalk side itself, wherein we can choose the load balancer to be of network or application or classic, right? And you can also choose whether your fleet composition is of on demand or spot, because ultimately in the background it's running as a launch configuration and auto scaling group. So if I just go to EC2 right now, and if I show you that it's a launch configuration and auto scaling group would have been created for your EB environment. So you can see over here we have a launch configuration created over here. Let's also look at whether an auto scaling group is created. Cool. An auto scaling group is also created where the instance is 1, desired is 1, min is 1, max is 1, right? So that's the reason why we got one EC2 instance. And you can also choose to go with spot instances, right? And you can see the instance type over here is T2 micro, but obviously it supports all of the instance types, right? And the AMI ID is something that is being chosen by AWS themselves for this EC2 instance, because we have chosen the Java with Amazon Linux, right? And you can see the availability zones or placements is all disabled over here because we are going with a single instance environment. And again, the time-based scaling can also be done over here, because right now it has a min, max, and desired of 1, but you can also do time-based scaling by specifying a specific time, right? And this is schedule scaling action, right? So now let's look at the load balancer. Since this configuration is not a load balanced environment, it's a single instance environment. We are not able to choose our load balancer, but then this should be pretty simple, wherein you go ahead and choose whether it's an application load balancer or network or classic load balancer, and choose to create your target groups from here itself and so on, right? And when it comes to rolling updates and deployments, this is something that I want to show you because we have spoken about the deployment policies. So we have all at once and we have immutable over here, right? And even if we have rolling update type as disabled, we can have it as immutable, which is enabled, right? Cool. And you can see over here the deployment preferences. We have the healthy threshold, the command timeout, and the health checks, and so on. So you can also choose to go with immutable over here as the deployment policies, right? Let's click on cancel. So when it comes to security, you can see over here, since it's a single instance environment, you may not see the rolling with or additional batch or the rolling deployment strategies. So that's the reason why you saw only the immutable and all at once, because it's a single environment, right? So similarly, if I show you, if I go ahead and create a load balanced environment over here, then you will also be able to see that you can go ahead and do the rolling updates and the other types of deployment strategies that we spoke about regarding rolling with additional batch and so on. And under the security part of it, you can see that you can associate an EC2 key pair, and you can also go ahead and create a service role and an IAM instance role. And this is for you to go ahead and talk to other AWS services using the IAM role that you create for the EC2 instance, right? So more when you scroll down, you get monitoring with CloudWatch. So you can also go ahead and go with enhanced monitoring or basic monitoring that you want with CloudWatch. You can go ahead and choose some custom metrics that you would like. You can also go ahead and choose some custom metrics for your entire environment that you would like. And again, the health event streaming to CloudWatch logs for, do you want to stream all of your logs of your application or your server to CloudWatch? If so, you can enable this, and you can also choose your retention period for as long as you want, right? So if you go ahead and enable this to go to CloudWatch, you can choose your retention period to be up to 3653 days. Right? Okay, we're just going to disable this. Let's click on cancel. And finally, the last setting over here, which is called as managed updates, wherein you choose your maintenance window and so on. But other than that, you can see over here, since right now our network, this environment is not part of a VPC, but then it automatically placed it into the default VPC. And we also don't have any databases created over here. So we can go ahead and click on edit, and we can go ahead and choose to create our database using Amazon RDS, but then it's created from this dashboard from Elastic Beanstalk itself, right? So you can choose your engine, you can choose your dbt2 micro instance class, give your username and password. Otherwise, whether you want it to be only within one availability zone or multiple availability zones. So all of these settings can be configured from here itself. So again, it's going to talk to the RDS service and go ahead and create your database for you. Right? So now let's go to the second configuration over here called as logs. So you can go ahead and request logs from your EC2 instance, at least the last 100 lines, and you'll be able to see all of the logs over here, right? You can go ahead and download your log file and go through it, right? And similarly, when it comes to the health, you can see over here, there is one EC2 instance that is in the OK status. And you can go ahead and also do something regarding the lines of restarting your instance or stopping your instance, right? You can reboot your instance, you can go ahead and terminate your instance and so on. All of these are possible from the Elastic Beanstalk dashboard itself. And under monitoring, you see a lot of CloudWatch related metrics. So you can see nice dashboards over here. You can also go ahead and edit this dashboard to include new dashboards or new visualizations over here. Right? So all of these are things that we have already spoken about in CloudWatch. And then when it comes to alarms, you can go ahead and create your own alarms, right? And this will be integrated to your monitoring dashboard. These are also your CloudWatch alarms. And under managed updates, there is no update history for this environment, but then you can go ahead and edit that setting in your configuration tab. Under events, you can see all of the events that were pulled from when you started creating this application and the environment that was created along with it. So you can see over here, Elastic IP was created, waiting for the EC2 instance to launch. It has added one instance to the environment. It has given this endpoint for our application. It has successfully launched the environment. And the environment health transition from pending to OK status. So these are all the events. And finally, the tags that you associate, right? So I hope you have seen all of the configurations regarding Elastic Beanstalk. But then now let's do one more thing. Let's go ahead and create things by ourselves. Let's do manual creation. So let's go to environments. You can see we have one environment over here. Why don't we go ahead and create one more environment for us, right? So let's go ahead and create a new environment. And you can see over here, it gives you two options. One is called as a web server environment. The other one is called as a worker environment. So this is important to note for when you go for the exam. So your web server environment is things wherein you handle HTTP requests over your web layer and so on. But your worker tier environment is where you go ahead and process messages from SQS queues, wherein again, you have a worker environment that is pulling messages from SQS, and then it's going ahead and reading those messages. It's processing those messages and doing some work based on that. And again, it works based on a schedule. So that is the difference between a worker environment and a web server environment. But right now we are going to go with web server environment. Just know that Elastic Beanstalk supports both of these environment types. So let's go with the web server environment. I'm going to give the application name over here. I'm going to call it as a sample Java EB2, right? And you can see over here under application tags, we can give our application tags. We can give a separate environment name. We can give the domain name if we want to. But let me just check whether I'll be able to do this within this application itself that we created. The only reason is because I want to show you blue-green deployment, right? So within this application called as sample Java EB, I want to create one more environment so that I can swap the URL and show you blue-green deployment. So let's go ahead and create a new environment within this itself. So again, it's going to go to the same page, web server environment. I'm going to, why not I call this as the environment name as sample Java EB2. I'm just going to leave this blank for right now for domain name to be created for me, right? Auto-generated value. Again, I'm going to go with the managed platform itself. But this time I'm going to go with Python, even though we named it as Java. I'm just going to go with Python so that you can see a different UI. And the platform branch is again Python running on Amazon Linux 2, and the platform version. We'll leave all of these the same. We are going to go with the sample application itself. But how do you configure more options for your environment like the ones that we saw? You can go ahead and click on configure more options, and it's going to take you to a different screen wherein it shows you all of the configuration details, right? So these are all the things that we, studied about when we spoke about all of the configurations. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify one thing over here. I'm going to change it from a single instance environment to be a load balanced environment. So I'm going to change it to a load balanced environment. So it will change some of my configurations. I'm going to go only with min and max capacity. I'm going to go with on demand. And you can see over here, it allows us to choose any two availability zones. But why not let me go with one as min and one as max, but I think it will anyways launch two EC2 instances. But let's see if that's possible. Again, you can choose the AZs to be placed. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose all of the availability zones so that it chooses any two of the availability zones. And you can see we can configure our scaling triggers and so on. So I can go with the CPU utilization and the average, the unit being percentage. The period is being 5 minutes. Breach duration is 5 minutes. The upper threshold is 70%. Lower threshold is 20%. So it will go ahead and modify this, all of these interpreted, in all of these settings to be interpreted into the auto scaling group settings, right? And whatever you gave over here is your load balanced environment to choose your availability zones and so on. But let me just go back to single instance environment. I just wanted to show you that you can do all of these settings. So let me go back to single environment, right? I'm going to click on cancel and let me go ahead and create this environment, right? So that we have a Python application ready to go within a span of 5 minutes or so. So you can see over here, again, it's going to go ahead and create a new CloudFormation stack. So let me just refresh this and show you. So it's going to create one more CloudFormation stack for you. And this CloudFormation stack is going to go ahead and launch the same resources. We may get an error over here if we don't have enough elastic IPs in that region. So let me go ahead and check if we have enough elastic IPs, or else we have to go ahead and remove some elastic IPs. So we already do have 5 elastic IPs. Let me go ahead and deprovision this. So let me go ahead and release this. Okay, so therefore we have 4. Let's refresh this and see. Okay, so it has gone ahead and created a new one for us: 52 201 100 254. Oh, unfortunately that's the one that I deleted then. Oh, that's bad. I didn't even check that. So it's creating the auto scaling group and so on. Okay, maybe the stack will fail. Yeah, that's possible. Unfortunately, I deleted the elastic IP that it was provisioning. But no problem. Let's see what happens. Let's wait and see. At the end of the day, we are all human. Yeah. I don't think it will be able to find out this elastic IP. Yeah. Unfortunately, I deleted it. Okay, so it has created the auto scaling group. Let's see if EC2 instances have been launched. Okay, so we do have one EC2 instance launched over here, and it got a public IP rather than an elastic IP. But maybe probably the next time when we update the environment, we'll get an elastic IP. This is also cool, no problem. Okay, so our stack is completed. So let's just wait for some time until the environment is up and running. So it's in the pending status right now. So just wait for a little bit of time until it comes up. And we also do get a URL for this. So similarly, you can also go through and walk through these settings that I showed you before for even this environment. So in the meantime, let me also show you something regarding saved configurations from this. So when you click on this environment over here under the environment actions, you can go ahead and save your configuration. So what it does is at that point of time, what is the configuration that you have regarding all of these configurations, right? That you saw in the screen, right? Whether you have an RDS instance configured, whether you have a VPC configured, whether you have a load balancer configured, or whether it's a single instance environment, what key pair you have given, what IAM role you have given, literally every configuration that you had over there, you can go ahead and save all of those configurations from an environment and call it as a saved configuration, right? So I'm just going to give this configuration a name. So I'm just going to call this as my app. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Cool. So we do have a saved configuration. The things that we can do from this configuration is we can directly go ahead and launch an environment from this configuration and also go ahead and delete it or load this configuration, right? So let's go ahead and look at whether this particular environment is up and running. So it's still creating. Maybe it would be because of the elastic IP that I removed, which I shouldn't have. Okay, let's do one thing, not a problem. Let's click on actions. Okay, so unfortunately, since it's a pending status, we can't terminate it also. Okay, in the meantime that this comes up, let's go ahead and create a new environment. Yeah, why not? Web server environment, let's give it a name. Let's call it as sample Java EB3. And okay, so this is the application, sorry. So let's go to applications. Let's go to this application and let's create an environment from here. Yeah, cool. It's a web server environment. Yep, cool. Environment name, we'll call it as, okay. So let's again choose the Python platform, but this time let's not delete the elastic IP. So sample application, let's click on create. Yep. Sorry about that, because I mean, unfortunately, I deleted the elastic IP that it created. Therefore, the environment is still in the pending state.
So that's the reason why it's still in the pending state. This one will come up. I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah. So within this application right now, we have 3 environments. So generally we can have one environment for version 1. And then if it's a load balanced environment and so on, you can go ahead and do your rolling updates or rolling with additional batch and so on. But this environment right now is our second environment, probably which we can use for version 2 of your application. And we can go ahead and swap the URL from this environment to this. So let's look at the CloudFormation stack that it has created once more. Yeah. So now let's look at the Elastic IP that it has created. Okay, so I think it has associated the Elastic IP already. So we should have one more. Yep. So it has automatically associated an Elastic IP. So all we need to do is just wait for the auto scaling group to launch, and then it's going to launch an EC2 instance for us. So let's see if we are already launched with an EC2 instance. Yep, we are already there with an EC2 instance. And one thing to always remember is Elastic IP is cost. So therefore, when you're using Elastic Beanstalk and you finish your environment setup, go ahead and please remove your Elastic IPs or lease your Elastic IPs. Okay, we just have to wait for at least 1 or 1.5 minutes more. So what are the other things I thought of mentioning for Elastic Beanstalk? So, okay, yeah, so all we have to do is just wait for that environment to come up and we can do a swap environment URL. But again, when you click on clone environment, it's nothing but a copy. So it'll just give you all of the details and then you can go ahead and click on clone and it's going to just do a copy of your environment, right? Okay, so let's see if the stack is complete. Yes, stack is complete. It's beautiful. Okay, so let's see if our environment is also in the OK status. Very nice. Okay, so we have the second environment also that came up, but again, it doesn't have a URL. I'm not, yeah, the reason why is because, yeah, it was not able to find the Elastic IP. So therefore, it's a good thing that we removed that so that you can see this warning status over here. The Elastic IP that it associated, we immediately released it. We shouldn't have done that, right? But let's wait for the third environment. Yeah, this guy is up and running and we do have an environment URL over here. So let me open both of these in new tabs. So the first environment that you can see over here, this is your Java environment. The second environment that you can see over here is your Python environment. So what we can do right now is we can swap our URLs and let's see how that works. So let's go into the Java environment over here and let us swap the URL with the other environment. So let's click on environment actions. Let's click on swap environment URL and we can go ahead and choose our third environment that we are using. And let's go ahead and click on swap. So it's swapping the CNAME in the background and this will be finished within a second or two. Yeah. So completed the swapping, right? So now if we go back and see this, if we do a refresh, okay. So again, we are in a normal browser. So why not let's go ahead and copy the environment URLs and paste it in an incognito window. Yep. So let's copy this environment URL. So you can see over here, the URL has been swapped. So sample Java EB3 is over here right now and sample Java ENV is over here. So this was supposed to be our Python environment. Now it's been gone. I mean, the URL has been swapped, right? So you can just copy these and you can paste it on the browser. Let's do it on an incognito window. So now this particular endpoint, which is sample Java EB3, which was a Python application, this endpoint should now point to our Java application. Right? Cool, beautiful, works that way, the way that we expect it. And now we have this endpoint, which was to our Python application. Sorry, this was to our Java application, which is now, to our Python application. So let's go ahead and put this endpoint over here. Pretty cool. So now this is Python and this is the Java. So that's what we did. So using blue-green deployment, we will be able to swap the environment URLs from version 1 of our application to version 2 of our application, right? And that is being done seamlessly in the background by Elastic Beanstalk itself. So I hope you guys can also go ahead and do this. So the way you terminate environments is just go ahead and click on your environment, click on actions and click on terminate, right? And you have to give the environment name in order for it to be terminated. So I'm just going to copy this guy. Sorry. Copy and paste it. Go ahead and click on terminate. So similarly, you can go ahead and terminate your previous environments also. But the advantage with the Elastic Beanstalk is that once you terminate an environment, you will also be able to bring it back. So you can see over here under environment actions, I think you can also go ahead and rebuild your environment. There was an option before, which I'm not mistaken, should also be there right now, wherein you can also go ahead and I mean, from a terminated environment, you can go ahead and bring back that environment because you do have the saved configurations with you that you have created before, right? So that's also possible. Okay. So those are some of the things that I wanted to mention. So there is one advanced configuration called as, I mean, EB extensions, which I would like you to go through in more detail, probably for when you're preparing for the professional course and so on. But again, so these are all the things that you can do with Elastic Beanstalk. It's a pretty easy service to get started with. And I would like to give you a homework wherein you can go ahead and try to upload your WAR file to Elastic Beanstalk and see how you're able to work with the Java and Tomcat environment, which you spawn within Elastic Beanstalk, right? And also, please do try out the swap URL feature. It's pretty cool, I believe, because they go ahead and do the CNAME transition in the background for you, right? So thanks a lot for attending this session on Elastic Beanstalk. So I'll meet you in the next lecture. Thank you. Have a nice day.